Happy Tu B'Shvat, everybody. We are coming to you from a very, very special location here in Eretz Yisrael, less than 10 minutes away from our apartment where we're living in Beit Shemesh, in an area called Eshtaol, which in the Tanakh is near where Shimshon, the Shofet, lived. We are currently in, well, you can probably tell we're in the hothouse of a plant nursery, and this is not just any plant nursery, but this is a nursery that belongs to the Keren Kayemet L'Yisrael, to the JNF. This is where they start growing the plants that are going to be planted throughout Israel when people sponsor forests and trees. These are the plants that are going to be planted in those locations. Now, I just want to show you some of the plants. We're standing there are some of the unique fruits of Eretz Yisrael. This is a rimon. These trees will grow up to be rimonim one day, to be pomegranates, and those trees right over there are going to grow up to be date trees, te'enim, one day. Towards the end of this row, you see aravot, willows that will be possibly used with someone's lulav on Sukkot one day. All of these little branches, all of these little cuts, what just appear to be twigs in the planters, will one day grow up to become big, beautiful fruit trees, the kind of trees that are the source of brachot for Eretz Yisrael. And it's so important to look at these little trees, to look at these little twigs, and to see how they first begin to sprout leaves, and how eventually they're going to be in the ground giving fruit, and to think about the message, the Tu B'Shvat message that is included in these little sprouts. The Gemara says, why is Shvat the Rosh Hashanah La'ilan? Why is this month specifically right in the middle of the winter, right when in some countries it's really, really freezing, and some people are slipping on ice and it's snowy? Not in this country, by the way. But why is Shvat, which is still winter, even in Israel, considered to be the Rosh Hashanah La'ilan, the new year for the trees, when the trees are not quite growing yet, they're not quite giving their fruit yet, it's not spring and it's not summer, so why Shvat? And the Gemara says, you know, Shvat is still the middle of the winter, but it's the month of Shvat when we look at a good chunk of winter that has passed us by, and there's still some winter ahead of us, and it's right around this time when it's still winter, when it's still not spring, it's still not the season when everything is growing, when the Gemara says the sap begins to enter into the trees begin to take root, and the new fruits for the new year that will be beautiful and delicious begin to appear and begin to take root. And so Shvat is really like these little twigs that we see here. It doesn't look like much. It's not really the most fruitful time of the year, but it's specifically that time when we know that growth is going to happen, when we know that what appears to be a time which is not so full of beauty and full of things that are good to eat and good to look at, is really the time that is the root of all those great, beautiful, and delicious things. We're in the Yar HaKadoshim, a forest not far from where we just were, from the Keren Kayemet plant nursery. And as you can see, Tu B'Shvat is not just a day for thinking about plants and thinking about hope, but it's really about seeing the things that we planted grow into fruition. And so if you take a look right here in this forest, there's a major outing of the youth group Ariel, which is one of the major religious Zionist youth groups here in Israel. And it really gets you think when you see Jewish children walking the forests of Eretz Yisrael. It reminds you of that little plant, of that little stick, of the hope that we had for it, and it reminds us that Tu B'Shvat is ultimately about hope, that the things that we plant will grow into something big, that the things that seem to be so small at one point will ultimately flower and flourish and become huge down the line in the future.